Hello, I'm Lori with Behavior Education at Spirit Keeper Animal Sanctuary. Welcome to this brief overview about Python Nidovirus for keepers. Python Nidovirus, or just Nidovirus, it's also called Serpentovirus, was originally assigned to the family of coronaviruses that many of us have heard of. More recently, taxonomic changes has put it in a family called Viridis. It is still very closely related to coronavirus, but what is really important that you need to know is what causes it, what are the clinical signs if your snake has it, and what you can do about it. You might be wondering if nidovirus has the ability to infect humans or other animals. It is not considered a zoonotic disease. It can infect some other reptiles, but the species of this virus that is specific to snakes and very specific to pythons cannot infect humans. Python nidoviruses are transmissible to other pythons and to some other snake species and reptiles, but there is more than one specific strain that has been sequenced, and you could kind of think of these strains as different species of the virus. And the different strains or species can vary in pathogenicity, and that means in the ability to not only be contagious, but how sick that particular strain is likely to make your animal. And if you look at this red bubble and at the two red sequenced strains of the virus, those are the ones we're talking about in this briefing today that specifically impact the pythons that we work with. This is just another quick look at that phylogenetic tree, and all of those strains in the red bubble are the serpentoviruses that infect snakes and some other reptiles. And again, the two that are in the red numbering and lettering are the ones that we're specifically talking about today with our snakes. There are many signs of nidovirus infection. The most common are respiratory signs, and these can be quite severe. Things like wheezing, open mouth breathing. Your snake might have a raised head and neck posture. They may actually have discharge from the nares or nostrils, excessive saliva in the mouth, bubbles or liquid coming from the mouth or nares, increased respiratory rate, and something that sounds like coughing, although snakes can't exactly cough like mammals do because they don't have a diaphragm. It will sound like they are coughing. You may also hear something that sounds like sneezing. They might have some purulent stomatitis, and this is really severe inflammation around the mouth. And you might notice pus coming out of the mouth or on the mouth, or crust around or in the mouth. And then inappetence, that means a poor or non-existing appetite. They may go off food. They may become anorexic and lose weight. Other signs that you could see, but that are less common, are lethargy, dehydration, skin lesions or pore shedding, difficulty perching for arboreal snakes, and speculitis. Now, this was mentioned in a paper by Parrish et al., and I did some research on what speculitis is, and it was really difficult to find. It seems like this is an issue with the spectacles or the scales covering the lens of the snake's eye. So you might now be wondering how this virus is transmitted. Well, the virus can survive in the environment, and it can also be present in animals with no clinical signs. That means those are animals that are carrying the virus, but they're not sick. So it has to get from the body of an infected snake and into the body of another snake in order to cause the snake to be ill or to become a carrier. And this virus can be transmitted from snake to snake through direct contact or through contact with contaminated surfaces such as equipment, clothing, and substrate. And it is transmitted through bodily fluids. It's not an airborne virus, although if things like feces or urates or water that the snake has had a drink from becomes aerosolized, other snakes could potentially inhale the virus that way. So how do we prevent this disease, or how do we prevent this virus from spreading from snake to snake? Well, strict biosecurity measures are called for. Regular cleaning and disinfection of equipment and surfaces, quarantining of new snakes, isolation of snakes that have clinical signs, and very strict hygiene for snake keepers. Early detection and screening are really important. Have snakes tested prior to arrival at your facility. Have them tested again upon arrival, because increased stress can cause the virus to shed in higher numbers, and so you have a greater chance of detecting the presence of the virus under those conditions. and then have the snake retested again after a few months. Now, recommendations on this vary. It's usually 3 to 6 months, but work with your exotics veterinarian to work out a protocol. Then have your exotic veterinarian provide annual wellness exams and conduct annual testing if you have a large number of snakes. Thank you so much for watching and learning and listening to these facts about Nidovirus. I encourage you to read through these references and do some further study and research on your own. I also encourage you to work very closely with your exotics veterinarian to establish the proper protocols for your individual facility and your individual group of snakes. Until next time, everybody, please remember to always be kind and love your animals.